In the days when Israel had no king, the people were caught in a cycle of fear and failure. For 20 long years, they were crushed under the iron grip of King Jabin of Canaan and his ruthless commander Sisera, who ruled with 900 iron chariots and an iron heart. It was a dark time, a time when warriors were few and courage was rare. But from the shadows of history, one woman would rise, not a soldier, not a prophet, but a tent dweller named Jael. This is her story, a story of unexpected courage, of quiet strength, of a moment that would turn the tide of a nation from the edge of a tent. But to understand Jael's moment, we must go back to a time of unrest, of cries rising from the valleys, and to a woman named Deborah, a prophet and judge, who first heard the stirring of deliverance in the wind. There was a time in Israel's history when the people were afraid to walk the roads, a time when the sound of iron wheels meant one thing: death was near. For 20 long years, King Jabin of Canaan oppressed the people of Israel. His commander, Sisera, ruled the land with 900 iron chariots, the most feared war machines of the day. Villages were raided, women taken, men slaughtered or enslaved. The people cried out to God, but their voices echoed in silence. And then, under the shade of a palm tree in the hill country of Ephraim, hope stirred. She was a woman, a wife, a prophet. Her name was Deborah. She didn't carry a sword. She carried wisdom, authority, and the word of the Lord. People came from far and near to sit under that tree, to settle disputes, to hear truth, to find courage. But one day, Deborah heard something new. God was calling Israel to rise. She summoned Barak, the military leader from Kadesh in Naphtali. When he arrived, dusty and doubtful, Deborah's eyes met his. "The Lord, the God of Israel, commands you," she said, her voice steady. "Take 10,000 men from Naphtali and Zebulun and lead them to Mount Tabor. Sisera will come, but the Lord will deliver him into your hands." Barak swallowed hard. He was a fighter, but not a fool. Sisera had iron chariots, trained men, and blood on his hands. Israel had farmers and fishermen. "If you go with me," he said slowly, "I'll go. But if you don't, I won't." Deborah didn't flinch. "I will go with you," she answered. "But the honor will not be yours. Sisera will fall, but into the hands of a woman." A woman? Barak didn't understand. Deborah wasn't a soldier. She was a voice, a judge, a leader. But he didn't argue. The call had been given. The march had begun. 10,000 men, some seasoned, most untested, gathered at Mount Tabor. Atop the hill, the air was tense. Below them, the valley lay open like a battlefield waiting for blood. Far to the north, Sisera heard of the gathering. He laughed. 10,000 Israelites with no armor, no chariots. He rallied his men, mounted his iron beasts, and thundered toward the Kishon River. He had no idea that heaven was already against him. The battle was about to begin. Below Mount Tabor, the Israelites stood firm, watching as Sisera's vast army approached. Barak's heart raced. He had been told by Deborah that God would deliver the enemy into their hands, but the reality of the moment was overwhelming. The ground trembled under the weight of Sisera's chariots, each one a deadly force. The sun, once high in the sky, seemed to burn even hotter as the chariots drew nearer. And then, it happened. The Lord spoke through Deborah. "Go. This is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands." At Deborah's word, Barak charged down the mountain, and as he did, the sky darkened. Clouds gathered, thunder cracked, rain poured like judgment. Sisera's chariots, so mighty on dry ground, were helpless in the mud. Wheels sank, horses screamed, soldiers panicked. The battlefield turned into a floodplain of chaos. God had moved, Sisera's army broke apart, and Barak pursued them. But Sisera ran. He left
driven through by her hand, and the commander of the Canaanite army was no more. The man who had terrorized her people, who had brought so much pain and suffering, was dead. Jael stepped back, looking down at her work with quiet resolve. This act would be remembered in Israel's history as the turning point, the moment when a woman's courage changed the course of the war. What can we take from Jael's story today? That courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, "Now is the time." That you don't need a title to be used by God. You need discernment, obedience, willingness. That the front lines of the kingdom aren't always on pulpits or in headlines. Sometimes they are at the kitchen table, in the classroom, in the quiet spaces where no one claps but where God watches. Jael didn't have a sword. She had a tent peg. What do you have? What's in your hand? What simple, overlooked tool might God use for His glory if only you'd trust Him? In a world that still celebrates noise, flash, and show, Jael's story reminds us the kingdom of God often moves through the still, the steady, and the unseen.